So welcome to Awaken Coach Institute and welcome to day 4 of International Coaching Week. Really, really good to have you here in the community. And so I'm so interested, before we get started, to learn a little bit more about you and why you wanted to come to an anger topic, which I find really enjoyable. And so to start us off, I have a opening question for us. So you can speak it, you can put it in the chat. So sometimes what happens is we feel like anger shows up out of nowhere and it becomes this explosion, and it's like, holy heck, that was not me. What just happened? This took me by surprise. And so I invite you to kind of go back to a time that might have happened recently. Hands right, like this does happen, right? And then go back a little bit further before that and ask yourself, what was the earliest sign that I had that I was starting to get a little bit angry? And so if you'd like to share, just say what you want to say about, like, what was that little, what did you feel? What did you think? What happened that let you know that I'm starting to get a little bit angry? Not when you exploded, but before that. What was it like? Eve, are you okay if I make you co-host, by the way? And that way, because I want people to feel free to put things in the chat, but I don't want to be looking at the chat a whole lot myself. So I'm going to let people into this meeting, Eve, and then maybe read out without the names, but just read out what people are saying in the chat. That would be really helpful. Okay, so what does the chat say there, Eve?
It has one comment which says, I struggle with anger myself. I have made decisions in anger that later I have regretted. My emotions started to be unstable.
Okay, so I think we can all relate to that. We've all made decisions that we've regretted when anger was at the wheel. Our emotions are not necessarily meant to kind of be sitting in the driver's seat. However, they are really good friends. And I think that second comment was like, when did you first start noticing your anger? And that was about the emotions started going wild. What else is going on in the chat there, Eve?
There's another one saying, getting quiet and feeling in free state.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
what else?
And also feeling tightness in my chest. Another one says a rising feeling from my stomach. And another one says, I feel things are closing in on me.
Okay, these are all so relatable, aren't they? And so what my goal is here in this conversation that we're having is to help us to get a lot more aware of anger as a good, healthy friend when it first starts arising. So if it's tightness here, if it's tightness in the shoulders, if it's this kind of feeling, if it's a queasiness in the stomach, I want us to be really happy to listen to those signals as early as possible and to know what to do rather than wait for the explosion. So did everybody have a pen and a piece of paper around where you could doodle something? Feel free to go get one, because I really feel like the more we can draw things out and get it on paper, the better off we're going to be. And so I want to make sure that everybody has really stellar, I'm just trying to like take the blur off my background here. How do I do that? I don't see it. Maybe I can show you anyway. I want you to have really, really good drawing abilities such that you can draw a big circle and 3 arches like this. All right. And then you might need to draw squiggly lines, maybe make some stick houses and other things as we go along. But just, I invite you to kind of draw whatever you feel is important to draw as I tell you this little tale. So my sister and I were in the south of France last week. I live in France now, and in Europe, there's these really, really beautiful old villages that have ramparts all around them. And so we went to this gorgeous little town of Aigues-Mortes, and oh my gosh, was it beautiful. Like, we wandered around. So you have to park your car outside, because the people inside the village really, they believe their town is beautiful, it's prosperous, it's clean, it's well kept, just the kind of town you would want to be a part of. And so we left our car outside. We did not throw any litter on the ground when we were in that town, and we were just like, overjoyed to be there, walking along. They had like strung bunting up over the streets. It was very festive. There were like 2 or 3 kind of big squares where there were cafes and shops, and everything was like displayed really beautifully. There were some residential areas there that were just so lovely to walk around. And the whole town was surrounded by these gorgeous, really carefully and beautifully built stone walls that have been there for centuries, and just really well maintained, clean. And there were three entryways into the village, 3 sort of arched paths that people could come in. And so this is where our story gets a little bit more allegorical. We came upon a town council that was happening. And so the leaders of the village had decided that they were going to pay 3 sentry guards to make sure that they protected the beauty, the goodness, the prosperity, all the good things that are found within the town. And so I want to invite us, as we're imagining this town and all the beautiful houses and shops and people and enjoyable things, and hear the sounds, that we put 2 hands over our heart and just imagine this whole village alive, prospering, full of beauty and goodness. And so let's say that we're the town council, and we've decided to hire a group of sentries. And so we are paying them handsomely, because these good things are so worth honoring and protecting. And so we've decided we need really strong folks at each of these gates. And so we're going to pay them absolutely as much as we can and hire them to do their job really well. And so we're going about our affairs and still, enjoying our champagne and our cappuccino and all the sights and sounds of the village. And these groups of vandals come. And next to each of the 3 gates, they start kind of chopping away at the wall. They start spray painting it with graffiti. And then they even take chunks of the rock that they've pulled off, and they start tossing it over the wall and smashing people's houses, like the windows of their houses on the inside. And so Sentry Guard number 1 at the first gate is a really wonderful, just loving, kind, considerate person who has been raised to with several really important adages, like turn the other cheek, forgive 70 times 7. And this person has even gotten really into like yoga and spirituality practices. And their life mantra is Serenity Now. And so when these vandals are coming, this anger sentry number 1 starts kind of panicking and is like, oh, what do I do? Okay, and they just keep repeating their mantra, turn the other cheek, forgive 70 times 7. These people are doing the best they can. And the more they repeat these mantras, the more panic they start to feel. And so they go to serenity now, serenity now, serenity now. Breathe, and they start doing their breathing exercises, just calm down. And at some point they get so overwhelmed with this anger that they've been paid to express, and yet these other messages telling them that anger is wrong. And so they end up running back inside and hiding under the covers and crying and saying, oh, I'm so disappointed in myself. I just let these people break our village. And then some other folks come and start banging on the door, and they say, wake up, where are you? What are you doing? You're supposed to be at the gate. And the sentry guard is like, shut up, you guys, just leave me alone. I'm just like, I'm trying to do like Serenity Now. And so we'll leave sentry guard number 1 in their bed, surrounded by very frustrated people who are not really getting what they paid for. And we'll go see what's happening at the second entrance to the village. And so at this entrance, there's also vandals doing the same thing. They're chopping at the wall, they're throwing rocks, they're doing the graffiti. And this sentry guard is wearing their uniform. They've got their paycheck in their pocket, and they've got their notepad where they can write down the infractions that are going on. And they square their shoulders and they walk out to the vandals and they say, with the power vested in me by the Village of Beauty, I am going to be writing each of you a fine, which will cover not only the cost of repairing the wall, the cost of the houses that you've broken, and you're going to need to make amends for this behavior. And so the vandals kind of make different decisions. Some of them run away, some of them keep doing it, some of them need to get arrested. And so anger sentry number 2 gathers some support as needed, makes sure that time is taken to make sure that the reparations are considered and that everything is clear. There's a clear contract between this is what our village needs, and this is what you've done, and this is what's needed to make it right and to restore it. So we'll just leave these sentry guards at gate number 2 and head over and see what's happening at gate number 3. So at gate number 3, same thing, another group of vandals chopping at the wall, throwing rocks, spray painting graffiti. And this anger sentry guard is like, now is the time. This is the day I've been waiting for. I have trained my whole life. And thankfully, they have weapons. And so they have like these special bayonets with like knives on the end of them. They've got guns, they've got machetes, they've got everything they need to really beat the crap out of anybody doing the wrong thing. And so they come rushing out of the village, and they're like, these vandals are a bunch of cockroaches. They're the children of these farmers that live around here, and they all deserve to pay. And so they go rushing out of the village into the surrounding farmland, and they start launching their hand grenades and chopping up people's arms and legs and creating carnage. The end. My dears, what comes up for you? Hands on heart with this lovely tale. You're welcome to share your doodling if you want to, or just any feelings that came up. There's a lot going on in the chat, I think.
A little bit. There's one comment, like there was one previous to the story still that when someone gets anger, he or she is not anymore himself. And then referring to the story, there are several comments saying like the different ways we manage anger. Sometimes I like to be the third guy, astonished to learn that about me.
Yeah. So what's the relationship between the first guy and the third guy? And I'd love it if you can speak up. You don't have to tell your own personal stories, but let's get a little bit of movement here in the conversation to the extent we can. Yeah.
I can start. I can start. And thanks for the
Yeah.
story. Made me smile. I'm a bit tired today, so that lighted me up. I was thinking, walking through them, neither right or wrong, but I was thinking. Lastly, yes, the third guy. Wow, going out with a hand grenade feels relieving. And then I thought, normally I'm the yoga kind of person, so maybe that's the balance thing in regards to anger.
Yeah, I can imagine that a lot of us are right there with you, where we know sentry number 1 and sentry number 3 a lot better than number 2. And maybe we felt both, or could be surprised by like, oh yeah, I know that third one. Mary, what do you want to add?
Yeah, I actually the 3 different gates with 3 very different approaches. And I think for me, the first thing that came to light was the choices that I make in whatever situation. I can choose to be God number 1 and do all my meditation and run away, or I can also be God number 2, use my head even in a time of crisis. And sometimes probably near going to God number 3. Same it's almost like the same scenario, but choices to do very many different things, which can either be very destructive or could create some common ground.
Who wants to add to the conversation?
I would love to. Oh, Tina, you go ahead. You go first.
I found myself identifying with the yoga guy for a while. And then just in seconds going to the third guy, just like not being able to meditate or hear my mantra anymore, turn the cheek, and all of a sudden it just, there's this volcanic thing, and I'm like, what happened? Who I'm not this person. Where'd this come from?
Exactly, right? And so it's that when we are trying to do the Serenity Now, turn the other cheek mantra, sometimes sentry number 1 goes over to gate number 3 and joins in the launching of the hand grenades.
Scary.
Yeah. And that's exactly how it happens. And then you're like, who's that? And we can get into identity stuff another day, our parts and integrating our parts. But yeah, when you have a part that's not integrated, you don't like fear, you're trying to shove it down, it will be heard, just maybe not in the way you want. What do you want to add, Eve?
I think I felt very triggered by all of them. Like, I mean, they were meant, I think they were meant to be polarizing. But in like all of their approaches, I didn't really resonate. Like, I wouldn't pick any of those, because I felt like, isn't it kind of like a combination of like resting first like staying calm and then talking to them, and then at one point maybe becoming a little bit more clear and aggressive. But I would never kind of like use, or maybe I would use laws, but I find that more kind of like, do you need a law for everything to support you in your anger? So I don't know, I felt triggered by all of them.
Cool. Yeah. So I'd be interested to hear like your fourth Sentry Guard or your progressive Sentry Guard that uses a variety of skills. Yeah. Who else would like to speak?
There's also one more comment in the chat, but I can. Laurie shared, I think the 3 sentries are a representation of how different we respond to anger. I think I'm the 3rd guy, but the 2nd sentry is cool for me.
Okay. Yeah, and I think the earlier we can recognize anger, like that very first opening comment that we made about like, what does it feel like? You know, let's say your anger is coming up. Let's say you do feel something churning around in your stomach or tightness in your shoulders. Which Sentry Guards, either one of those 3 or a different one, would you want to call on?
The question was, Christy, which one we would want to call on of the 3, right?
Yeah, like let's say you had 100 euros that you got to hire a Sentry Guard. Who would you pay and what would you instruct them to do? How would you know? You just did your job really well. You earned your salary for today.
Even though it feels tempting to hire the 3rd one. I think for sure I would hire the 2nd one.
What are the gifts that the 2nd one would bring to your village?
Less damage.
Less damage, right? Just to the vandals, to the villagers. Oops. There's this app that's taking over my Zoom. I've just gotten rid of it. Yeah, so less damage. What other gifts would you receive if you hired a really, really good Sentry Guard? Tina?
I think it would keep the connection with whatever was going on, going. If it, you know, the whole situation, if it was one person or a couple people, that if we're getting curious about the anger, then we're not shutting the other person down. That they have the opportunity to respond without our boundary being dismantled or destroyed. Yeah, because I think when you throw bombs, there's damage both ways.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. You knock down our tower, we're going to launch our bombs at your country. I mean, we see the effects of unbridled anger even on the international scale. But if I'm hearing you right, some of the values or some of the gifts that you're getting from healthy anger are honor, connection, and boundaries.
Yeah.
Very cool. What other gifts? Who wants to add to our gifts list from having the right sentry in place?
I think what I meant before when I said like I would love to have a person that kind of incorporates more different approaches, is like that the guard would be able to tap into different parts within himself. So first trying like a soft and gentle and kind understanding approach, telling them to leave, and then if this doesn't work, to just like increase the power in which he kind of like communicates, and also his connection to being the authority. Like I remembered like one event that I was on, which was about emotional release, and one exercise that we had to do is like a person was sitting on the floor on a pillow, and we were supposed to tell that person to leave, just like verbally, but the person was just supposed to leave when they really felt that there was this energy, this authority coming from us. So it was really interesting to do that exercise, because it kind of like helped me create awareness on how you can bring the energy into your voice, and how this changes if a person feels like, okay, I really need to leave now because this person is about to get really angry, or if it's just like funny for them to stay there and kind of like make fun of you being like, oh, please, can you stand up? This is my seat. Something like that, you know? So I think there's different levels of how intense you can communicate. And if this doesn't help, you can still refer to, other means to
So
defend.
true. Yeah, I remember when I was really heavily pregnant living in Washington, D.C., and I would get on the metro, and people just wouldn't give up their seats. And I actually have pretty severe issues with blood pressure and stuff. And so I'd be getting really dizzy and really need a seat. And I just was so ineffective. I could not like get people to see I need to sit down. And it was so frustrating, and I'd get really angry. But if I had to draw a picture of my anger, it has no arms. Like, it's just like, ugh, can't do anything. And my darling secretary, Blondine, I love her. She would come with me onto the train, and she was this little tiny person, but she would just come onto the train, and she would like kind of muscle her way to a seat, and then she would stand with her back to the aisle, like blocking the seat so nobody else could get past her. And then she'd kind of like turn her shoulder and let me come sit down. And she'd sit down, but she just was like, I'm getting the seat. You need the seat. This is how we're doing it. And there's a presence, physical, vocal, that no, this is what I need. And it's good and right. Who else wants to add to the conversation? Anyone want to add another gift that we receive from paying the right anger sentry?
Maybe if we pay the second one, which is we make us independent from what is happening outside of the village by having a tool or process in hand to safely manage the situation.
If I'm getting you right, it sounds like you'd be like preparing in advance. You'd kind of have you'd know that you had hired the person. You'd know what you want to do in certain situations, how you want to handle it. Is that right? Are you saying?
I know I have a beautiful city, and I know how to protect it.
Yeah.
And I have someone in charge who knows how to do it. All good.
Yeah. And how does it feel? I'm just opening it up for everyone. How does it feel to know that that is good and right to say, I have a beautiful city and I know how to protect it?
It feels it's freeing. Because like the first century, you feel like maybe the walls are gonna erode a little bit from the inside because it's not being cared for the right way. And the third century, because the explosive way handling it almost invites more anger.
Mhm.
So the second one, handling the vandalism has a maintenance level with it too, so that, you know, like Nicole said, the beauty is maintained, and that I feel my body just feeling less, just like a big release of breath, just thinking about the beauty being maintained.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Another gift of anger is beauty is maintained. Yeah, I'm hearing, yeah, so many good values here. The connection and the beauty and justice, protection.
I
Mary?
think, yeah, the second one, he's also maintained, or she has also maintained herself,
Yes.
because she didn't get into the bait, and I think she's still standing tall because she's managed herself.
Mm-hmm.
It is not destroyed, and she's also not destroyed. But I think also the fact that she's been able to use both the rational, I need to note down, I need to tell what the consequences are. I thought that was quite a very good balance.
Yeah. So if I'm getting you right, first of all, this Sentry knows her authority from the entirety of the village. Everybody's backing her. That's her job.
Yeah.
And she's using her head, and she's using her physical presence, and she knows that what she's protecting is valuable.
And she's also using the authority that she
Mhm.
has been given appropriately. It's not destructive. She's actually using very soft power.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
How do you think would that second guard react when there is something happening that is not previously agreed upon in a contract or process or guideline?
You know me, I'm a coach, so I just have to throw it right back to you, Eve.
That was not for you, that was for everyone.
Oh, for everyone, I see. Who wants to add something?
I think I'm seeing the being playing out in all the different places. The first one being very meditational and calm and peaceful. The second one being like, I need to be in charge, and I need to note what is happening, and I need to engage with these guys. And the third one just deciding, hey guys, come, let's bomb up these guys. Whichever situation you put them, I think they'll behave the same.
So maybe go back to thoughtfulness, truthfulness, truth telling, writing down the truth. Maybe going back to the village and finding out more about what are we deciding here, people? What's the expectation in this situation? It's a new one. What do we want to do?
Yeah.
Miriam?
Yeah, I think the second guard would or could also lose his temper if he had not the thing going just as he wants to go. So yeah, it makes me think that my anger would come to the need to get angry to be heard. I don't know if you see what I mean, but you know, I don't want to have to change my voice or my attitude to be heard, and that is what makes me angry. So I realized that my village doesn't need to be the same as the vendor's village or another guard's village. It's mine, and I also don't need people to come into my village if they're not ready for it, or if they don't want. It's a bit like the arena. Yeah.
Yeah, and you get to choose. I mean, when I went to Aigues Mortes, cars were not allowed in the village, and people were not allowed to throw trash on the ground. And so if anger is doing a good job as your sentry, there can be just a sign saying that this is what we expect. You are very welcome to come into our village if you come with curiosity and honor and kind intentions. If your intention is to do harm, we've got a gate here. And if you're inside, you get to choose how people are allowed to enter your village. And I love that you can say that so clearly, Miriam. This is my village. We've each been given one village and one village only, and it is our sacred responsibility. So I have just a final 2 questions. These are stolen from Carla McLaren, who's my very favorite author on emotions. She wrote a book called The Language of Emotions, and the 10th anniversary edition, or anyway, the 2nd edition is coming out in June. So I have it on pre-order, as well as the audiobook from Sounds True. And I just love, she always asks 2 questions for every emotion. And the questions for anger are, what do I value? And the second question is, what must be protected and restored? And so I would invite us to spend our last 10 minutes or so together just talking through those questions. What do you value? What is worth protecting and restoring? That your anger can help you to do that. Tina?
It's so interesting that these are those questions, because these are the questions I was asking myself, and I did not read that book as I was looking for my values for the other class. And it was really, it was what upset me. Where did I feel hurt? Where did I need something repaired? And that's where I came away with my values. Where did I feel like I didn't have my boundary got pushed through, and where did I not feel true to myself? And it's such beautiful questions to really go deep with, to know yourself.
Yes. And that is what makes anger one of the most cherished, beautiful, amazing emotions that it's really a true friend. And it's so sad when people think of anger as something that they have to smash down or be afraid of or control or manage. And I've just put in the chat for everybody an article that Carla McLaren has written about anger, which I used to as the basis of this workshop today. And you'll love her book. It's so worth listening to and reading. So anyone else want to add to what do I value? What is worth protecting? Yeah, we've got in the chat. What is to be protected is my inner core to restore my functional self. And I would just say, you know, it says in the chat, without anger. And I would invite us to recognize anger so early in the process that it's seen as the strong, protective, loving, boundaried, connected, powerful friend that it's meant to be. Because the goal is not to lose our anger or never be angry again. The goal is to have just enough anger to recognize this is my boundary. This is what needs protecting. This is what's valuable, beautiful, just, good, right. And I will make my voice heard. I will stay connected. I will be courageous. All those good things that come when your anger is being used as the powerhouse that it's meant to be and receiving all of its gifts. Who else would like to add what you're thinking with these two questions?
I think for me, the value that got triggered most in my past with anger is definitely fairness. When I perceive something as being unfair, like even saying it right now already creates this. So I know, like when now that I know that this is the value that is triggered, it helps me so much in like not exploding, but like just being aware of it and just changing my way of communicating. Yeah.
Yep. Fairness and justice are two of the biggest values related to, and beauty. There's lots of them, but fairness and justice are often some of the values that come up and that are worth speaking up about. Not that you always have to get your way, but it's worth knowing who you are, getting your voice heard, speaking up, being willing to be assertive, if not, not that you have to be throwing bombs at people, but say what you want, what you need, what your feelings are. Yeah. What else is coming up?
What I value is communication. So that's why I think I would hire a guard that is able to communicate with the vandals, actually. And I realize now that I don't need to have a lot of anger. Just as you said, I just need to recognize when it comes in and have just enough anger to remember my values. And that's it. I do not need to go further. And that is so freeing. Thank you.
Yeah. The story is coming to mind as you talk. When my little girl, she was maybe a year and a half, and she was in the daycare in Paris, and the daycare caretakers, whatever you call them, at the maternelle, they all had master's degrees in child development. They were so highly trained and really good at their jobs. And one morning I had dropped off my daughter, and there was this other kid there that was like pushing other kids down, and it was very dysregulated and creating conflict. And so the head of the maternelle just went over, and she crouched right down to the little kid's level and looked him right in the eye, and she said, "Non, on fait pas ça." And it was just very clear, the voice, the body, everything. And the kid stopped And then you could kind of see him going like, "Hmm." And she's like, "Viens, viens, câlin. I'm going to give you a hug." And so then the little kid comes up and she hugs. "I know you're a good kid. You're doing your best. Let's calm you down." And so it was that real both and connection and no. And so one of the gestures I like to use with healthy anger is this one at the same time, holding out the hand of forgiveness if it's warranted and the hand of stop. What else is wanting to be said, if anything, about what's worth protecting and restoring?
I have another value that comes up for me when I think about anger, which is honesty. Like if people lie to me, and I'm realizing that those values that are my most strongest anger triggers are also the ones that I picked up from my early childhood. So these are also values that I know from my parents very well. And I think this has kind of like an influence also on the intensity of the anger that shows up.
Yeah, but it sounds really healthy. I mean, truth telling, anger is very supportive of truth telling, of being really clear about what's okay, what's not okay. It does not support lying well at all. And so it's really a good friend in that way. Thank you. And the people who have the healthiest anger they're not the kind of people you see out there shouting, and they're not the kind of people who are cowering and afraid. They're really very centered. So if it's okay, I'd like us to close with a little bit of body movement. When it's all awakened, we like to do a lot of body movement. I won't do a whole lot today, and you're welcome to be on video or off video, but I just want us to get a sense of the expansion of our boundaries. And we did this yesterday in our Daring Greatly course. And so if you were lucky enough to be there, then we'll do it twice. So we just want to start by recognizing I'm inside of me. This is my body. And really breathe in the fullness of your heart and the goodness and beauty and all of the value, like a whole village inside of there that's meant to be prosperous and clean and joyful and connected and safe and just wonderful and beautiful in there. And just imagining that your hands are the honorable, filled with conviction, protective boundary sentry guards. And so moving your hands out from your heart, and your boundaries are meant to be as big as your arms can stretch. And so going ahead and stretching them in 360 degrees. So just allowing yourself to twist and turn so that they go in front of you, behind you, to both sides, all the way around, and even up over your head, down under your feet. And then imagining that this space, that's the width of your arm, so maybe up to a couple of meters wide and tall around you, that's your kingdom. That is your birthright. That is yours to honor and protect and to use for connection and beauty and mutual self-esteem and honor. And just letting that whole area in your imagination be filled with brilliant color. So I'm going to pick the pink that I'm wearing today. You might have another favorite brilliant color, a green or a blue, something that feels powerful, connected, boundaried, beautiful, And just make a promise to yourself. This is me. This is mine. I know who I am. I take good care of myself. I'm comfortable speaking up for this beauty that's inside. I feel heard and respected, and I respect others in my relationships. I know what my needs are, and I can express them clearly to others. I can say no to demands on my time, or a no to anything that is not valuable to the peace and beauty and justice that's meant to be inside of me. I can make distinctions between my emotions inside of this city, this village that's mine, and the feelings and emotions of others. I can be present and focused. Even when others are angry, I can stay solid and grounded inside this boundary place. I'm aware of and sensitive to issues of justice. And I stand tall to make the world a more brave and loving place for everyone. And so as we close for today, I would love to hear one word from each participant today. You can say it out loud, and if you'd prefer not to speak, then put it in the chat. I would love it if you could say a word out loud of just something that you're taking away from this conversation. And you're also welcome to put it in the chat. Tina?
My space is sunshine yellow.
Mm,
I'm gonna take it all day with me.
absolutely. Sunshine yellow space with you all day. Thank you. Mary, what are you taking?
Freedom.
Freedom. Thank you. Miriam?
I take with me this bubble, my big bubble, my kingdom.
Your whole kingdom. Yes, it's very expansive in there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nicole?
I take away that I need to take care of my bubble because I'm exhausted. Good reminder today that I need to re-energize.
Hark, would you like to speak? You're on mute.
Sorry. Yes, I'm going to take care of my very bright blue bubble, for sure.
Absolutely. It's worth it. So beautiful in there. Thank you, Mark. Eve?
For me, it's power, like this powerful feeling, strength that comes also with this activation of this energy.
And then do you mind just reading also from the chat? I won't call on you if your video's off. So if you want to speak, turn your video on, or else go ahead and say something in the chat.
So we have great and awesome from Edmund and value from Carla.
Thank you both. Wanjiro, what would you like to add?
For me, I'm taking away the two questions for myself and for the people around me, just helping them to process their anger. So I feel like there are two tools that I have been given. Thank you.
Yes, yes, for self and others. I am honorable, I'm worth valuing, and so are you. It's always equal. It's never one or the other. Murunga, I don't know if you go by Murunga or Laui, but
Yeah, I think what was powerful for me is that anger is in support of truth telling. And I think that's something I've been struggling with because I love the truth. So, and that has been the epitome of my source of anger because you offend me so much. So from this session, I've had validation and had space in me. So all I need to do is just to ensure, how do I leverage that to ensure I'm not busting out and I'm not causing more harm to my surroundings. So how can I be a sentry to myself? That is my takeaway. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for speaking up. And it's really important to not to get into a whole different topic, but anger and hatred are cousins, and anger is our friend. It has so many good gifts. And when boundaries are repeatedly crossed and it's chronic, anger can morph into hatred, which is what it just doesn't do anybody any good in the world to have hatred. But anger, you can trust, and trust it early and often, so you are willing to tell the truth and to speak up and to share your experiences and your own feelings and needs, so that you are honored to the same level that every other human is honored on the planet, because you are worth it. You're so valuable. I love you guys. Thank you for coming today. Thank you for your vulnerability and for being willing to doodle and move and experience the goodness of anger in your life. Cherish your beautiful, valuable selves for the rest of the day. Thanks for coming.
Thanks a lot, Christy.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Nicole.
everybody.
Bye, Tina.
Bye.
Mary. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.